Pod Jerky, bringing you an audio experience the likes of which you've never heard before.
Pod Jerky.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Pod Jerky. I am joined today by my wife, Amy, and on today's episode, we are going to do a little bit of a television series review on a couple of the shows that we've been watching or have watched over the last couple of months. So the three shows that we're going to do are Ozark, Cobra Kai, and Hawkeye. And we're actually going to review Ozark Season 4 and Cobra Kai Season 4 as well, and then Hawkeye, obviously, Season 1 as it just came out. But everybody, welcome to the show and welcome to Amy.
Hello.
All right, so let's just get started on today's show. I'm going to talk about Ozark first, and I didn't really start watching this series until December. I had no interest in it whatsoever, but then I blasted through it in December, watched the whole entire series up until Season 4, and then Season 4 was released, I believe, on New Year's Day.
No, I think it was later.
I don't remember what day it was released. Anyway,
sometime in January.
Yeah, Season 4 came out, and it was just part 1 of Season 4. So we're going to take a look a little bit about that part of the season, and then maybe give our predictions on Season 2 or Part 2, what we think is going to happen. So we start off the season with a car accident. And we were thinking, okay, this is going to go into something into Season 4 and see what happens with this car accident, but there's no mention of it whatsoever. So I'm assuming they're going to carry that car accident over into Part 2 of this season. It was just really weird. So I guess what I think of it is they all got out of the situation. They were on their way back home. The accident happens, and that's how the end of the story happens. That's probably going to be your final scene. That's what I think. Anyway, but
you think that's how they're going to end it?
I think that's how they're going to end it.
So we don't know whether or not they live or die.
They might go a little bit more into it, but I think that's going to be the closing scene. They got out. Everyone was happy. I guess they all were a family again. They were away from all the dealings of the drugs and money laundering and all that stuff. They got away from all of that, and then that's what happens. It was almost like a kind of karma thing. I think that's what is going to happen, but hey, we don't know until we see the part 2 of it. But from that accident, we see them in Mexico, and we left off, I believe, Season 3 with the lawyer being shot and killed, and you see them in the washroom cleaning up, and they're full of blood. You believe that it's from the accident that just happened because that was the previous scene, but no, it actually ends up being the blood from the lawyer that got shot by trying to think of his name again right now.
Her
Navarro
handler in the US. No, it was the driver that shot her.
Was it the driver?
Remember she said to him in the previous season, if it's ever going to be my time, make sure you warn me.
Right, but they were in Mexico with Navarro. And they were at Navarro's place, and I thought Navarro shot her in front of them.
It was the driver.
Was it the driver? Okay, so
that's why it was so symbolic, because they work so closely together in the U.S. Right? Like he took her everywhere. He was like the representation in the U.S. for the cartel,
right?
And I remember her saying to him in Season 3, "If it ever comes my time, make sure you give me a heads up," because I think she wanted to say goodbye to her kids and stuff. And then he didn't. He's the one who ended up shooting her in Mexico.
Right. And that's where we see them cleaning up the blood. And then you find out that was from the actual shooting at the party that they were at for Navarro and his kids and all that. But at this point, we get to meet the nephew as well. So they introduce the new character of Javier that is introduced into the storyline, and his story becomes a big part of this part of the season. I'm assuming it's going to get much bigger as we go on, but this is who we're introduced to.
Spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't watched it, although I'd be shocked if you haven't, but just in case.
Yeah. Javier turns out to be this menace and this this whole character that just doesn't want to listen to what Navarro is saying, what he wants to do. Navarro is in charge of the whole operation with the birds, but Javier wants to take over, and he wants to do things his way. And he sees, I guess, Navarro as being soft with it all.
I don't know. I feel like they're playing the birds in some way, shape, or form. Like there's been a couple of instances where you see the uncle and the nephew's relationship through the series where it makes me feel like they're playing them.
Yes and no.
I don't know if he's trying to just appease his nephew so his nephew doesn't fly off the rails, although I think
and that's what I think it is.
Too little, too late for that. But I feel like there's something going on. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit about that. But I think it's also that this Javier kid wants to take over his uncle's enterprise, right? He wants to take over the whole entire thing. So he's trying to get Navarro out of the way, and he goes about it in like a brutal way. So certain things that Navarro say to do with the birds, he goes against, and then he goes back and he talks with Navarro, and Navarro and him have this kind of okay moment, and then Javier goes back out and does something else on his own again. So I don't know where it's headed with this right now. I guess we'll find out in part 2 of the season, and hopefully it's going to be a good one.
Well, apparently it's not coming out until at least after May, because apparently that's when award season noms need to be in. And so if they release it after, at least this is what I've heard, if they release it after May, then they can actually be in for award seasons for next year. So they purposely split it into 2. That's the rumor. How true that is, I don't know. Feels fairly accurate.
It's both smart and dumb at the same time, because people want to see the whole season and they're going to forget about it. But then again, when you go and watch part 2, you're going to go, I forgot what happened. I'm going to go back and watch part 1 again just to catch me up again. So they'll get the viewership that way. It's a little bit of a cheat way to do it. Like Avatar did it in the movies and re-released their movie 3 times in theater and hold the #1 spot again. But, it is what it is. And this is just the marketing play of these shows and franchises. But we also find a struggle with the bird's son, Jonah. He becomes, I guess, a worker for Ruth in what she's doing. She's bought this motel or inn or whatever it is. To launder money. Jonah's been paying attention to what his dad has been doing all these years. He's learned his own system. He's made his own system. So we see this rocky relationship between Jonah and his parents. His mom goes in, Wendy goes in and kind of steals information off of the system from him, just so that, I guess, Navarro doesn't get caught up with anything, or they don't get caught up with anything. And it's just this whole struggle of, teenage son versus parents.
Yeah. He's been a bit of a interesting character, because all the way through this series, there's been these little hints that he's being written off as the baby of the family. He's being written off as this little kid. Meanwhile, he's been learning over the course of the last 4 seasons exactly, what the average person shouldn't do, but what you should do in order to kind of avoid kind of getting caught, or how to actually run a successful business, although it's not legit. And he's just kind of come out as this bit of a dark horse this season. And I feel like he plays a much bigger role in part 2. That's my my prediction.
It's the character development, right? They had him as just like the baby of the family, like you said, and then they move on and he's getting more and more of a role, and they developed his character a little more. I don't know what he's going to have to do with the outcome of all of this.
He just knows too much. Knows way too much compared to what his sister knows. Like his sister's just accepted it finally.
Yes.
And has just been, I'm in the family business, where I feel like Jonah has this internal struggle about whether or not to support his parents.
Yeah.
And he definitely has a battle going on inside compared to what his sister is going through.
Yeah. And like I said, he was working with Ruth at this motel and doing this money laundering. And all I got to say is Ruth is kick ass. Her character her character is amazing. She does a phenomenal role for this part, and you get invested into this character. She's just phenomenal in this series.
You want her to win, as shady as she is.
Yeah.
Because she's been so crafty since day one. I mean, here she is like bossing her uncles around, you know, protecting her nephews who are literally the same age as her, or maybe a little bit younger. Like, it's just, yeah. She's just like true to her name. She's ruthless, but has to be in order to be able to survive.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, we go into the officer there. I don't remember her name now.
Mia.
Yeah. So she ends up arresting Navarro against the Bird's wishes, against everybody's wishes. She ends up arresting Navarro, and we're not going to go too deep into that, but we're going to set up the end of the season here, where we see Javier go into Darlene and Wyatt's house. And
if you haven't watched it.
Yes, if you haven't watched it, mute this part. It was kind of a surprise. You knew Darlene was gonna get offed somehow, but Javier goes in and he shoots both Darlene and Wyatt, who just happened to be there at the time. I mean, he was kind of an unwilling participant in that scenario.
Yeah.
You know,
it was
he
unexpected.
He wasn't part of the hit, right? It was just on Darlene. Yeah. Darlene has been a pain in the ass for everybody throughout the whole entire series. Again, she played a phenomenal part as well.
I got to admit, the female leads in this show
were great,
have been phenomenal. Like, their characters, the way they were written, the way they were acted, have just been,
amazing,
phenomenal.
Yeah,
they were just, because Darlene's great. Like, her character is crazy, and I hate to say that word, but she's like,
it was a little bit strange for me watching Darlene and Wyatt together on screen.
A little bit. I think that made majority of people uncomfortable.
Yeah. But I guess that was the aim of the whole process there. But so we see Javier take both of them out and then leave. And Ruth ends up going to the house to go and see Wyatt. I don't know if she was trying to convince Wyatt to leave and come back with her. What it was, she finds both of them dead, and we see her driving off, and we're assuming in search of Javier, and just, you know, raging mad and crying. So this is setting up part 2 of the season, where I think Ruth is going to go and try and get her revenge on him.
Honestly, I feel like this story has so many possibilities. Like, it is not, in my opinion, a predictable part 2. I think there are a ton of theories on the way that this could end, and all of them kind of feel fathomable. Bad choice of word, but they all seem possible. Where, you know, it's Ruth standing at the end, it's Navarro standing at the end, you know, it's Wendy standing at the end. Like, it's so hard to decide because there's so many powerful, incredible storylines. It really could be anybody at the end of this. Like, I kind of want to see Marty standing at the end of this. Like, the poor guy has just put up with so much. I kind of want to see him come out of this with his kids. Whether or not Wendy comes with him, I don't know that I care.
Well, see, this is where I think it's headed. This is my prediction of what's going to happen, is that the Birds are all going to get out, and this is where it's going to lead to the car accident. They're all going to get out. Ruth is going to take over operations. They're going to do a spin-off show with Ruth's character from the Ozark, and the Birds are going to be on their way back home to Chicago, and they're going to get into the car accident.
Do they make it to Australia?
So we don't know what's going to happen with that. We'll find out. That's my prediction of what's going to happen. I just think Ruth is going to take over. She was too important of a character to not let her win at the end and have a spin-off with her. The Birds getting out would be exactly.
Make it out?
She may die in the car accident.
Maybe.
You know, she may die in the car accident. So I don't know what's going to happen with the series. This is my prediction. This is what I think is going to happen. What about you?
I got to be honest, I really don't know. Part of me sees Jonah killing off his mom because he's just so incredibly mad at her because she's done so many things kind of shady in handling him. Also, I feel like she's the reason they're in as deep as they are, right? Like Marty had a nice little system going where he could just run the business, as long as the money and get out. And it was less about the politics and less about the winning, which she has this winning mentality. So part of me sees there's some form of demise for Wendy. I just don't know what it is or who done it. But I feel like Jonah plays a part in it in some way, shape, or form. And then I think Ruth comes out on top. To your point, it's just what that looks like. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Jonah has to have some kind of. I mean, if he doesn't have some part in the ending,
like he has to have his big.
Yeah, I think so too. So that's our take on Ozark.
Excellent series.
Yeah, excellent series. I wish I would have watched it before, but I didn't mind watching it. I didn't mind watching it all in within a week, to watch three seasons within a week and then catch up. Yeah,
you kind of did it smart, right? Because you got to go right into season 4 after like a week after you finish, versus the rest of us that have had to wait almost 2 years.
And then you would have been like, I forgot about that part. I forgot about this, but you got to watch a lot of the episodes, with me. So I had
still had to work over Christmas.
Well, I had the Christmas break off, so I mean that's a whole thing with working in the school, so that was good. But yeah, I think that's our take on Ozark, and we're gonna jump right into the next one, which is Cobra Kai season 4. This series, I want to say, is just entertaining. I really enjoy it. I mean, when we first started to watch Cobra Kai, we thought, this is going to be some cheesy ass, teeny bopper kind of.
It started off as a YouTube series,
right? And it's not going to gain any traction. It's not going to go anywhere, because they've overdone the Karate Kid thing. They did it with Jaden Smith, and I think Karate Kid went too far with the amount of movies. So now we're into this series where we've already talked about Cobra Kai, I think, and we've talked about how you find out that Daniel is kind of like the villain, and Johnny Lawrence was the hero, and it was all Barney Stinson that said it was always
I was waiting for the How I Met Your Mother reference.
It was the Johnny Lawrence being the actual Karate Kid, and you listen to the story of how he was treated back in the day, but you never knew this in the movies, and you just find this all out now, and
you just see him as the rich kid in the movie,
right? And it was just like, okay, this is how it's going to be. He's an asshole and blah, blah, blah. But now you see the real story behind it and the struggles that he had and, what he went through and all that. So season 4 is another good season. We start the season off with Johnny and Daniel were getting together, and they're trying to beat Kreese in the All Valley tournament to end his reign. So his reign at Cobra Kai would end with a victory at the All Valley tournament. And we saw Kreese recruit Terry Silver, who's another character from the actual movies. Robbie ends up crashing Cobra Kai, spending a few days there. They're trying to convince him to join. He gets in a fight with Terry Silver, and we go from there. What are your thoughts at the beginning of this season?
I mean, it's the one thing I'll say about this whole entire series, including this season, is very nostalgic. So and if you don't remember some of the Karate Kid movies, when they bring these characters back and they do the flashbacks, you're like, they've just done a really good job about continuing from the original sort of story or the original movies. Like they didn't really create brand new, but at the same time, they've incorporated a new story. So it's been good. I wasn't sure what to expect with him coming back. It definitely went in a completely different direction as you go through the season than I thought it was going to go.
Yeah. And of course, in this series, we have to have the montage. There's always a montage.
Montages, like almost every episode.
But I always look back to South Park, and South Park always does this whole joke on montages, and they have like they do their own montage, and they'll be like, "You gotta have a montage. There's gotta be a montage." And I always start to sing that during these little montages in the season. But the montage here is Johnny learning Daniel's style.
I feel like I need you to like break out into Hearts on Fire right now.
No, that's not going to happen. But the montage, the montage is Johnny learning Daniel's style and Daniel learning Johnny's style so that they get a better understanding of each other and their styles and how they're going to work together. You know, I agree with that point, I guess, just so that they can understand each other's. Yeah, but again, it was a little bit cheesy. We move into a new character.
It's the whole internal conflict, right? Like you can see, like, these two characters have never been friends.
No.
And so despite the story, they still struggle to find common ground. And that's apparent all the way through the season. That doesn't change, right?
But at least they're trying.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it feels weird, but it makes sense as you go through the rest of the season, how it all works out. But yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. But we're introduced to a new character in this season as well, and his name's Kenny. He starts off as being bullied by Daniel's son and his friends. And, you know, everybody always thinks that, you know, Daniel's son knows all these karate moves and is trained in karate and all this. And we come to find out that he actually doesn't know anything, has never trained with Daniel, has never done any of that. The daughter, Samantha, has, but his son has not done any of the training. So Kenny decides to join Cobra Kai, and Robbie takes him under his wing to try and teach him the discipline, I guess. And he ends up becoming a really good karate student, but he just uses it for the wrong reasons. He was using it to get back at his bullies. Conflicted. Yeah. And you know,
the moral of the story.
Yeah. So we found out later on in the season that, you know, Robbie had some guilt about the way he trained Kenny, because, you know, it just didn't work out. He screwed up the way he trained Kenny there. And
he didn't teach the lesson with the training, right? I think it's he forgot to teach the moral of the story.
Right. So Kenny becomes this like off the rails kid, this angry kid who's just out for vengeance. And I guess they end up meeting in the tournament, Kenny and Robbie. They're paired up against each other, I believe. And Robbie comes out winning that fight. But you can see that there's going to be some conflict in the next season between the two of them. As you know, Robbie at the end kind of, you know, goes back to Johnny Lawrence and says, you know, I screwed up and I can't keep the blame on you for everything. And, you know, I think he's going to start to join with Johnny again, and he'll end up facing Kenny, and, you know, we'll get that kind of clash between those two characters. We actually get to see Hawk win the tournament, which was a good surprise. I mean, you kind of were rooting for him to win the tournament. Miguel gets injured again, so he makes his way to the final. Hawk makes his way to the final because Miguel gets injured with his back again. And, you know, you were going for Hawk. You wanted Hawk to win. He ends up beating Robbie in the finals. And you were like, oh, that's good for Hawk, because he was the character at the beginning of the series that you were just like, could care less. You know, he was just kind of a bully guy.
Well, he came out of the last season with a not so nice image, right?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, him winning it was a good, I guess, happy ending for his character. And again, we see Tori fight Samantha in the finals. We all knew it was coming. We all saw that Samantha was not going to win that. We knew Tori was going to win it. Tori ends up winning the tournament. And we see her back, you know, in the back area there. And Samantha's mom, you know, has been trying to mentor her because they get into some conflicts during the show. She gets her fired from her job. And they just have some conflicts over the whole family fight that they had at the LaRusso house. And you overhear Terry Silver talking to the referee. He had bribed the referee to let Tori win that fight. He didn't score a point for Samantha when he should have. And then he gave a point to Tori to end the tournament, and she was the champion. So you see her conflict with that happening at the end of the series or end of the season. And she just looks a little bit torn on what she's going to do. So now I don't know what she's going to do. If she's going to just quit with Cobra Kai, or she's going to go and join with LaRusso or with Johnny Lawrence. I don't know what's going to happen with her character, but she's actually been great. She's played a pretty good, like, badass girl for the show.
Yeah.
She has that
Troubled
attitude.
kid.
Yeah. The troubled kid. But that's not even the end of the season. That doesn't even finish off the season. We see Terry Silver frame Kreese for something that he did, and Kreese is arrested and put into jail so that Terry Silver takes over full responsibilities of Cobra Kai. So now Kreese is sitting in jail, and you're sitting there wondering, hey, what is going to happen now? Is Kreese going to come out? He's going to join forces with Johnny Lawrence. We don't know. But again, that's still not the end of the season either. We see Miguel has left for Mexico. He's gone to see if he could find his father. And Johnny Lawrence actually leaves to go to Mexico to try and find Miguel. He knows how dangerous it is over there. He shouldn't be there on his own. So Johnny's gone over to try and find Miguel. And this was all in the last episode. So it was a lot to take in, a lot of stuff to take in to find out what happens for the next season. But we're still not done. We're still not done with this season, as Daniel is shown.
You remember way more than I do.
Well, Daniel ends up being at the gravesite of Mr. Miyagi, and we see him bring back another character who was in the previous season as well. And I believe his name is Chozen is his name. Chozen is his name.
From Karate Kid 3, right?
Yeah. So he ends up coming back to the gravesite, and they're both paying their respects to Mr. Miyagi. And he's recruiting him to help with the fight against Cobra Kai.
Yeah. And the whole bet was whoever won the All Valley, the other dojos were no longer allowed to be in practice, right? So that was all three of them kind of figured if we could figure this out. And then Cobra Kai ended up winning by like a point, which means officially Miyagi-Do and
Eagle Fang.
Terrible name. Are no longer allowed to practice. So this is why when you see this guy come in, you're thinking, okay, what's happening here?
So either they're going to start a new school. I don't know.
Maybe, because the interesting point about this particular season was between all of the coaches, the internal struggle to let a new style of karate kind of come into their dojos, right? So the big part that Robbie plays is teaching Miyagi-Do, which is more defense than offense, and to teach them how they can play both sides, right? And the more you learn about the way that they're doing it, the better you're going to be at defending yourself and winning the fight. But the piece was they all ended up doing it, right? So they're sort of everybody kind of got a mix of styles and things like that. So you saw a lot of personal growth with all of the characters. I don't know how else to put it. So it's kind of interesting to see how that will translate potentially into the next season, because nobody has a specific style anymore, right? Like everybody's kind of picked up everybody's kind of good parts, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So this series, to me, it's not an Oscar-winning series. It's not, but it's
nostalgia. It's entertaining.
It's mindless entertainment. Yeah, it's mindless entertainment. You like you said, nostalgia. You just remember some of these characters back from the actual movies. I'm hoping that they don't bring in the Jaden Smith character down the road if they continue with that. Stranger things have happened. But I don't know if they're going to bring in that character. I wasn't a fan of those movies just because I watched it. I wasn't a fan just because I believe
we know that you do not like remakes. Like,
no, I do
let's
not.
Just be honest. You do not like the new twist on an old story.
I do not. No,
it's proven the other evening.
No, well, let's talk about that quickly. We were watching Bel Air, and not that it's not going to be a phenomenal series. It was just the way you're used to watching. You grew up watching the original
from comedy to dark drama,
right? Like, and you went from a Carlton character who was like nerdy sitcom. And to this Carlton character, which is snorting Xanax up his nose, and
he says it's Xanax.
Yeah, and he's the man on campus, and girls love him, and so you're just looking at it, going like, what is happening here?
Yeah,
Because this is
it's
just
a very different take on the
yeah, it's a
characters.
very very different take on the characters, and Hillary, yes, she's into herself again with the whole Instagram thing or the whole social media
But
thing and whatever.
you
But
also
yeah,
took it from like a 90s base where cell phones and internet didn't really
yes,
exist back then, to a story they're trying to tell today where they incorporate all of social media and all of those pieces.
well, I figured they would keep the storyline from the comedic version, just turn it into like a drama version, a dramatic
which is
version,
not the case.
which is not happened in the first episode. I don't know how it's
No.
going to go before, like, because you
They
look
took
at
the base essentially.
yes, but you look at Uncle Phil and you think, okay, all those years, Uncle Phil, was a big, heavy set guy. Will got to make fun of him a lot, the inside jokes here and there. And now you look at it and he's this like well-groomed, thin character. And you think, okay, I know it's not a comedy. I know the jokes aren't going to come, but at the same time, you're like, there's no opportunity for that to happen. Even just a jab.
This is a dark drama.
Yeah, there's no opportunity because you can't take a jab here and there, even if you want to with him, right? So it's a totally different show.
Very serious storyline, like very serious.
But we'll get into Bel Air.
Well, we've only watched one episode because only one episode.
We've only had one episode released so far. So once that's finished, we'll get into that. But we are going to move into our third series that we've been watching, and that is Hawkeye. And I think Marvel's done a phenomenal job with the series that they've come out with. They've had WandaVision, they've had Loki, they've had Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now they've had Hawkeye. This show's pretty much about Clint moving on so he can be at peace after the events of Endgame. He has survivor's guilt. He's somewhat accepted that, and he's accepted that he's a hero. He's a role model for somebody to look up to. And then he meets up with Kate. So we go into the story of Kate Bishop, who is now becoming Hawkeye. She was trying to find a name for herself near the end of the show. And he said, Hawkeye is all yours. It's not my mantle anymore. What do you think about the start of this series?
So when I heard that Haley Steinfeld was going to be in it, I wasn't 100% sure I was gonna love it. I kind of sit on the fence with her from an actor perspective. She actually played a really good character in this particular series. I liked it. I don't know out of all four of them which one's my favorite, but I would say this one was pretty good.
Well, I've seen her in 3 series. I've seen her, or movies or whatever. I've seen her in Pitch Perfect and Don't Care. I've seen her in Bumblebee and Don't Care. And I've seen her in Hawkeye. Movies. Well, Bumblebee.
Let's face it. I don't think Bumblebee was her fault. I think that was just a weird story.
And then the third one is Hawkeye, and I think she did a decent job in this show as well.
Yeah.
But the other 2 I could care less. Didn't care for the acting.
Gee, honey, I just didn't think Pitch Perfect was your genre of movie.
Phenomenal. I love it.
Whatever. The music's fabulous.
It's not that the music's not good. I don't think the acting's great either. But I mean, it is what it is.
Supposed to be.
Anyway, this movie is. Let's get just back into this review here, but
why it's fun to banter with you.
Yeah, this movie is more of a passing of the torch of Hawkeye and his character to Kate Bishop and her character. We find out about her mom, Eleanor. She's had dealings with Kingpin throughout her past few years. She's in debt to Kingpin. We don't see Kingpin till later on in the series. We're also introduced to the character Echo, who is his niece, I believe. And then we get to see Yelena as well in the series from Black Widow. She starts, so she's the character who was hired by Eleanor to take out Kate, right? She was Kate was the one who was going to be taken out of the equation. Yelena,
I don't think she realized who.
Well, she doesn't know, right?
Yeah,
right. But
what's the character's name? I can't.
What do you mean the character's name?
The one who she thinks she is. The mom thinks that she is. I can't remember the name of the character. It's gonna drive me crazy.
Well, you have a Google machine by you. That
I know,
you
but you
look
told
it
me
up
if I
quick.
touch the desk, it makes noise.
It does make noise.
So Hawkeye actually in Endgame, what was his Ronick? No,
Ronan.
Ronan. Thank you.
Ronan. Yes.
So she, because of the way that Kate finds the suit, everyone assumes that she's Ronan.
Right.
So that's why she's trying to get killed.
Yeah. Well, she does take up the mantle of Ronan for
Of course.
an episode or whatever, just to try and fight off some bad guys. She believes that the hit was put on by Eleanor's new husband or boyfriend, whoever it is there. Turns out he's just a nerdy swordsman, that
he's a pawn in the evil game.
Yeah. And that's all he is. He doesn't end up being anything in this. But yeah, we're introduced to Echo. She's a character in the comic books as well. So she is trying to put the hit out as well on Ronan because she believes Ronan had killed her father. So she's got the hit out for her. So Ronan ends up, the character ends up being chased, Kate Bishop, throughout the series, until we find out that Hawkeye comes out and, kind of tells her that he was Ronan. She finds out. And then we get into the good stuff with.
I feel like you're giving away the whole series.
Well, if you haven't watched it, you haven't watched.
True enough. Bless you.
Sneeze fit there. Yeah. So we go into Kingpin being introduced as well. We see him with Eleanor. We find out that she has the connection with him. And then we find out that Echo finds out that it was actually Kingpin that had her father killed. It wasn't Ronan that did it. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on in this whole series that ends up being, I guess, intertwined. That the storyline is changing as you go on throughout the whole series right now. Don't really want to give away the ending. Do we want to give away the ending? No. We know exactly what's going to happen. The hero always has to come out on top in the Marvel movies. Usually that's what happens, except for Infinity Wars. That's not how it ends. But Endgame makes the redemption for that. But yeah, Hawkeye was a really, really good series for me. I enjoyed watching it. I don't know about the other series. Loki, I really enjoyed. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I really enjoyed. WandaVision, I really enjoyed. I think the weakest one was Falcon and the Winter Soldier to me. But I don't know. There's a lot more Marvel stuff coming out shortly. We're gonna have She-Hulk. Moon Knight looks excellent. There's a bunch of series coming out that are going to be phenomenal. So, and
you didn't believe me about Moonlight.
Well, yeah, it's going to be excellent. So we'll see what happens with that. Anyway, the end of this Hawkeye, we get to see the Rolex watch that we see with the Shield logo and the number 19 on it. And for comic book fans out there, Laura Barton, who is Hawkeye's wife, is Agent 19. This is what we're thinking. The watch belongs to Laura Barton. She's Agent 19. Agent 19 in the comic books is Bobby Morse. Bobby Morse in the comic books is Mockingbird. So this is why I believe that she was hidden all these years from the team of Avengers, that she's actually Mockingbird, not the Mockingbird from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. story, but this will be Mockingbird in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She's just a character that nobody thought anything of, just thought mother of the children. She was staying at home. Turns out that she is probably Agent 19 and probably Bobby Morse and probably Mockingbird. They're not saying specifically if it is going to be Mockingbird or not, but Bobby Morse is supposed to be the character that she is.
Yeah, I'll give Marvel credit. They have built a phenomenal franchise, and everything that they put out, if you're a fan, I mean, I'm not a comic book fan. I never have been, but I've enjoyed pretty much everything that they've put out. I think Guardians of the Galaxy, which I'll probably get slaughtered online for this, is probably my least favorite out of all of them.
Boo.
Listen, I'm not a super fantasy alien type person, so it doesn't resonate as well with me.
Well, and Chris Evans
still
isn't in it.
Watch them. Well, and Chris Evans isn't in it.
Yeah, Chris Evans is not in it, so she doesn't want to watch it.
Listen, there's nothing against Chris Pratt. It's the story. It's not my. I watched it, and I will watch them if they come out, but it's not my. Let's face it. If there is a Marvel movie on TV, we get to choose from Disney, I'm likely picking one with Chris Evans in it.
Right. Yes, I know. Very understandable. All right. So those are the 3 series that we actually just finished watching and took a look at today. Highly recommend all 3 series to watch. There are a few series that we've done reviews on.
Definitely gave up more thumbs up this round.
Yes. Because
as in previous last round.
Yeah, in previous episodes, I was kind of harsh on a couple of series that we had watched, but you know, it was just, you know, well, what was the series? What we were watching the other day that you?
Well, there's a new one coming out, and you don't seem interested at all. So I'm just going to watch it without you.
Well, we just finished watching Peacemaker as well, and your thoughts on Peacemaker were, yeah, you didn't enjoy it. I did. I didn't mind it. I think John Cena was very stiff. The rest of the series was pretty good. The opening dance scene was kind of cool. Kind of got you like hooked on the song. Do you really want to, you know? So
oh my god, please do the dance.
I'm not doing the dance, but dance. I thought there was too many dick and ball jokes for it to be, you know, this kind of series.
It is with DC, and I shouldn't say this because 9 times out of 10 half the stories overlap in some way, shape, or form. Like it was just so stupid. Like the whole storyline was just ridiculous in Peacemaker. And maybe I still have a bad taste in my mouth from Suicide Squad 2 because that was just awful. Just awful.
But it introduced Peacemaker, which introduced
which introduced the series. But I'm sorry. I don't, if it's the writing, if it's the acting, I don't know.
Well,
it's just not, to me, not the same level as Marvel.
Well, I hear there's going to be...
And I'm not a comic book fan, so I have no preference between DC and Marvel, except that I do, because clearly I'm much more of a Marvel fan, because anything that DC's put out, other than Wonder Woman, and that was only the first one, because the second
Batman
one was freaking terrible. And the Christian Bale Batman.
Right.
Let's be honest. No other Batman, just the Christian Bale Batman.
Oh, come on. Michael Keaton. I know those movies were not great because of the cinematography back then and the special effects back then, but Michael Keaton is a phenomenal Batman.
Too cartoony for me.
Yeah.
It was just too cartoony. And yeah, I'm just not a DC fan.
Well, this is actually going to spin off another show. Apparently, I've been hearing. This always
feels like they're following in the footsteps of Marvel as well.
It's gonna spin off another show from the Suicide Squad. There's going to be another character. Maybe it's going to be Weasel, because Weasel's the one that got to run off at the end of the movie. Oh, yeah. So it might be that guy. I don't know who else is going to be a spinoff though, but I've been hearing rumors that there is going to be another spinoff show. It's not just going to be Peacemaker. Peacemaker has signed off for another. I might just
leave you to watch that on your own.
Yeah, another season for Peacemaker is coming out. I will watch it. I didn't mind it. I just, John Cena. Because I was a wrestling fan for so long, I just see John Cena as some like kind of comedic wrestling character, hip hop rapper guy, playing this point, like this part in the show. I thought he was very stiff, but I thought the show was pretty good otherwise. Yeah, but I mean, John Cena is not The Rock, right? I mean, I still look at The Rock as not a great actor either. Because of the wrestling background, right? Yes, but I mean the wrestling background for me, that's what I always go back to, is his wrestling background, and becoming this actor. I just still see him as like this, saying, oh, this Rudy Poo candy ass, kind of character, turning into this like huge megastar kind of action movie guy. And I don't know. I just see it as I don't agree with Cena being there. Cena's not a leading guy, but you know what?
But he draws in fans.
He does.
For the franchise, well casted, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's my opinion. Other people may disagree with that, but that's just my opinion on Cena. And I told you the reason why. I mean, if he was just an actor outside of the wrestling business and he wasn't in wrestling before, I may have a different reaction to it. But again, I just see these guys as the wrestlers that I saw for many, many years growing up. And I just don't see them as leading guys. It would be the same as Steve Austin being a leading guy in a movie. And it just doesn't work for me.
Hasn't he been in? He was in a movie.
He's been in movies before,
He's
but
in
he's
Grown
not
Ups too.
yeah, but he's not the lead. Right.
No,
so
no,
you
he's
can
a
see
B
how,
character.
he's stiff in those movies as well. And, it's just, it's different from the screen, from doing live action, like live events to the screen. So, I mean, it is what it is. Anyway, we're going to wrap up this episode.
We've gone on a lot of tangents today.
We have, this is the 3 shows that we have watched. We're going to wrap this episode up. Definitely recommend these 3 shows to watch. That's Ozark, Hawkeye, and Cobra Kai season 4. Go and check those out. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I agree. All great shows. Highly recommend. Great.
Okay. So as always, you can find Pod Jerky on Instagram and Twitter at Pod Jerky. You can also find us on our link tree. That's linktr.ee/Pod Jerky. And on our bite size, that's bytesize.me/Pod Jerky. As always, stay safe, be kind to each other, and we will see you later.